Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kirbside Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Kirby, joined here with multi-talented, iconic voice actress, and I've been practicing this so I don't mess it up. Stephanie, nah,
Doll.
Dalny, Nadolny. There we
That's
go.
it.
I've
You
been
got
practice.
it.
I've been
Good
practicing it
job.
all day, and then
Oh,
right in the moment, I was like, "Huh! Oh no,
yeah.
Nadolny." Emphasis on the doll.
Right. That's what I said. The doll.
But thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining me here today. It means the world to me, means the world to the show that you came on.
Yeah, I'm glad we
Um,
worked this out. Picked a good time.
yes. Uh, as always, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow all our social media. We'll be posting a lot more into our Discord, which you can find on our link tree. Trying to get more active with all our posts. So please feel free to go on there, interact with us. We love it. We appreciate it. Shout out to our sponsors, Raise Energy, available at repsports.com. Use the promo code Curbside8 at checkout for your special little discount. And Jerky.pro. Uh, Wonderful snacks always provided to Curbside Podcast. Once again, same promo code Curbside8 at checkout for a wonderful little discount. And of course, shout out to our partners, Collected Comics, and their three locations here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Go check them out. They have wonderful stores. They've got tons of collections for uh, comic book collectors, comic book readers, gamers, and D&D nerds like myself. So go check them out. Go give them your business. Wonderful folks. And with that, we'll turn to the woman of the hour, Stephanie. Once again, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
And I was gushing before we started recording. I love the
Oh,
backgrounds so
oh
much.
yeah. Yeah,
The
my
Kame
my
house with the Nimbus in the background.
my guys like we were playing around with the backgrounds and we had like a big Super Saiyan kind of thing going and the back was all orange and this one was just I think was a lot better. So we went with this one.
I like it. And I think I can tell. Is that a Dragon Ball that you're wearing?
I am. I decided to wear that for the interview.
That's awesome. Thank
It's a
you.
Dragon Ball on a chain. I got it from one of my appearances, Comic Cons, I always find that fascinating. Some of the people that make jewelry and they'll have it all like geared to like anime and different shows and things like that. So I was like, hey, might as well advertise, Or a lot of times I'll wear the Dragon Ball Z shirts to my events, like under a jacket, just to kind of be like, oh, there's my character. This is cool.
No,
Get into the get into the vibe.
no, that's awesome. I'm definitely known for whenever I dress really fancy. This is about as casual as I usually dress. But when I dress really fancy, I actually have a pair of the Pitaro earrings that I'll wear every now and
Oh,
again. So
nice.
so
I
people
see
have
the
seen, yeah, people have seen me with the orange ones or the green ones from Super a couple times.
Yep. Seen those a few times for sure.
But Stephanie, I always start every interview with the same question. Where did you get your start in entertainment?
Actually, I got started as a child. I knew as far back as I could remember, age 3, that I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a performer. Um, I was always putting on shows, doing funny voices, mimicking cartoon characters. But my first love was without a doubt music and singing, and I would sing all the time, so much that parents were like, Shh, shut up, stop that, because I would just do it nonstop. And but I had, that was something I could do in my free time is sing and write music. And I got into writing poetry and keeping a journal. And then I got into writing my own radio shows. And I would get with some friends of mine and we would actually write like a opening theme and then we would sing it a cappella and we would harmonize. And because I was in a lot of different choir and show choir and I was, doing anything and everything I could do to get into and onto the stage and put on a show. So I got a lot of experience just by voicing and singing and writing on my free time as a hobby growing up. We had a piano at one point. I think I was probably 9 or 10, and I started playing on the piano and started writing songs. And I could just do that all day. Would record everything on a cassette tape back then and listen back. And then I started singing to karaoke tracks on my stereo because they didn't really have karaoke back then and they didn't have the internet or YouTube or any of that. So that's what I did in my spare time. I started singing in church, got really into, after coming out of a huge disco era, I got into, 80s music and contemporary Christian music, started singing in church regularly, singing in the choir. We would do plays, got involved with talent shows, community theater. I was always doing something. Now we moved a lot, and that was very difficult because I would kind of feel like I had my friends intact, and then I'd kind of get uprooted because my stepdad was transferred from hospital to hospital, and I was very, very close to my mother. She was my biggest fan, and she would do as much as she could to support my dream. Um, but as much as I wanted to be, a child actor, child singer, whatever, Mickey Mouse Club stuff, I wanted to do all of that. But we were focusing on my stepdad's career, to get us kids grown and stuff. And so as soon as I got out of high school, I went to college at UNT, which is a music school in Denton, Texas. And it was good to be close to a big city because I was able to get myself out into the industry and meet people in theater, majored in theater. I was also doing lots of singing and performing with community theater all around DFW. And then I got an audition for a show band and I showed up. They actually, this is a weird story. They actually heard me singing through a window. I was singing with a band at 18, just that decided they wanted to add a female singer. And
Mhm.
so I started coming out to rehearsals, and one of the popular band singers across the street heard us, rehearsing. And I guess I was kind of discovered in a way because he was curious about if I would be a good fit for his show band. And then that
Mhm.
manager of that band recruited me almost immediately into Vince Vance and the Valiants, which is a rock and roll show band, kind of like B-52s meets Sean and Ah.
Oh, nice.
Singing, dancing, acting, costumes, high energy, visual, three-part harmony with the girls. Vince Vance had hair sticking straight up like a cone, and it was very theatrical, it was really perfect for me. I mean, it was a no-brainer that I take that job. And as much as I'd never been on the road before and I was really green and naive, it opened up so many doors for me. And I just had to, break down those barriers and, you know, get out there and see the world and travel and focus on performing and entertaining people all over we were mostly United States, but we did go over to Europe for a naval base tour. But while I was touring with them, I was also auditioning for things around the DFW. And Brave Combo took notice. They're a Grammy Award winning polka band out of Denton, Texas. I started, we were actually performing together, like Vince Vance would show up and then they would play. And like, so we were all immersed and we were all kind of like integrated and we would kind of hang out before and after shows. And then they asked me to sit in and then I started singing with them. And then eventually they started hiring me for some private parties, got me in the studio, recorded an album of original music back around 96, 97. And then my mom got really sick right after I got the audition for Dragon Ball Z, which I didn't even know what that was at the time. This was a long time ago, 1998. But the director was actually taking the entire show and recasting in Dallas Fort Worth, knowing that it was a right to work state. We'd get paid by the hour, no residuals, no royalties, could save a lot of money. The company could really grow, start small and kind of build. And so at one of my sessions when I was singing, Barry Watson was there and he asked me if I'd like to audition for a voice work. And I said, absolutely, I kind of do stuff like that already anyway, like for fun and through my musicals and through acting, there's voice work. Um, and so also been working with Chuck E. Cheese. I was Helen the Hen for one season. And that was fun. And then I was also at Jimmy Toys recording. All of it really was born out of my music career. So it multiplied and kind of, was just impactful to have those people around me that were involved in music. And some of these voice roles that I would get at Jimmy Toys was a character that could sing. So that was what I found over time was more unique about my voice is that I could sing and do character voices and mimic pop singers and whatever, male and female. And so I was also a huge, huge Weird Al Yankovic fan, and I don't like
Yes.
English, so why would I not like it? I was working with a Polish polka band, so the whole Polish thing kind of took some precedence there, and so I was just kind of doing a little bit of everything and just, learning about recording, laying down tracks, working with a producer on original material, helping construct lyrics. And then I got the audition for Dragon Ball Z, showed up for that. Auditioned for all the female characters. It was kind of like American Idol. I was standing up at a podium. There were three directors making choices and kind of giving us some guidance on what they're kind of looking for. And before I left, they asked me if I could do the voice of a young boy. I'm like, well, yeah, I had stepbrothers and a brother, and and schoolmates that I could kind of reference in my head. And so I threw out a kid voice, and they said make it raspy. And I mean, like a week later, I got a call on my answering machine that I'd gotten the role of Gohan. And I didn't know about anime. I didn't know what Dragon Ball Z was at all. I knew it was a cartoon. I know the anime fans would freak out when I said that. It was an animated
But
show that turned out to actually be anime, being that it was written and produced and everything was done first in Japan. Japanime, it's very mainstream now. I know that the listeners probably know what I'm
Uh,
talking about, but
I mean, no, definitely back when I was watching, I didn't know the difference between cartoons and anime. I just knew
right.
that it was this show about these characters and I really liked it. And then
Yeah.
I learned that it was a completely like separate
Genre.
entity. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
it's still animated.
oh
It's
yeah,
still character voices, it's still stories, but it's everything you see has already been done. In
right.
Japan, everything you hear, we were dubbing in English. Um, so all of that stuff kind of overlapped because I was performing and touring, and then I could like work freelance and come in and do my lines
Mhm.
once every few months. I mean, at the beginning, I didn't have a whole lot of lines. I had a lot of reactions that we could knock out in a couple hours for like 6 episodes or whatever. So until my character became more prominent, I really wasn't there that often. We would knock a bunch of stuff out, rewinding and fast forwarding, and then releasing onto VHS tapes, which the youngsters would
Which
probably
I
be like,
still
"Oh my
have a
god, those
few
are
of.
so
Don't you
old."
worry. I still
They're
have
like antiques
mine.
now. It's like, what is it, 25 years or more is like considered an antique, something like that.
Gotta hope not. Look, look, looks at calendar of literally turning 32 yesterday, going, man, I hope I'm not an
Oh,
antique.
happy belated
Thank
birthday,
you.
youngster. So that's
Um,
kind of how it happened. It was all integrated with music and performing and live shows and laying down tracks for original music and touring with a show band and getting planes, trains, and automobiles and sleeping on the airport floor and not knowing when you're going to sleep, if you're even going to get a shower that day because you got to be somewhere else. And I was in my 20s, and it was a tough schedule, but I was younger, 20s and 30s. You usually can kind of handle that kind of
mm,
intense touring. I mean, one of our tours was a month long. I was away from home for a month,
oof,
and you had to like work with
been
these
there.
musicians that you don't really get to choose, and you don't get along, or if someone's fighting over a song, you had to hash it out, or there was a lot of wow, three girl singers. There's always seemed like there was two against one. It was always kind of because it was a trio of girls. And then some would leave or go get married, or they would want to start a family. And so I stayed for a couple decades, and then I joined a show band locally in Dallas Fort Worth and started kind of doing stuff, a little bit of traveling, and then all juggling the work on Dragon Ball Z. And then we inherited the property. I say Funimation, the company. They got the property of Dragon Ball, and I showed up one day, and all of a sudden I was cast as Goku as a boy. We pitched everything higher, and the next thing you know, I'm cast in Dragon Ball, which was blast. It was backwards, but two totally different shows, but did have the same characters, like the prequel. And
No,
then we did Dragon Ball GT as well.
I remember specifically when they re-released Dragon Ball in the States. And this was like, at least in my opinion, this was height of Dragon Ball Z. I want to say it was right around the Android saga. So like
Oh yeah,
when they drop Dragon Ball, everyone's like, "Oh, what's this show?" Well, this is the show before Dragon Ball Z. So all of us just migrated immediately to it. We're like, "Oh, well, it's just more Dragon Ball. I guess we're gonna watch it." So,
yeah.
but no, it's ironic that everything around your career started from your singing, because a lot of my podcasting and a lot of just all of my extracurriculars started because I'm also outside of podcasting and my 9 to 5 job, I'm also a pro wrestler.
Oh, wow.
So everything that I've gotten so far has been from, well, I know this guy because I wrestled him in this state, and then I know this person because he's friends with this person, and
Right.
that's how I got into podcasting, is a guy that I trained with. It even helped a little bit of training. I won't take credit for him, but I love him to death. His name's Ben Banks. He's out of Virginia.
Okay.
Wonderful guy. Um, but I helped him in his early years, and then a couple years later, he starts doing a podcast, has me on for an episode, and I'm like, well, this is a lot of fun. And at the time, I had a
Yeah.
pretty decent following online because I was on another show, on a wrestling show. So I was like, well, why not? I do the same thing. I talk
Yeah.
about all the nerdy stuff that I'm into, and just
Right.
use that platform to, help my other friends, get their platforms up, because
Yeah.
and here I am a few years, well, 4 years later, just hit 4 years back in January. 4 years later,
Yeah.
doing conventions, getting
Yeah.
to meet voice acting legends. Because I mean, you are there. I won't hear any arguments saying that you're not a voice acting legend, but just that it all started from a small little, a completely separate uh activity.
Yeah. Yeah. And just it's all about networking, really. I mean, it's like getting out and about, seeing what other people are doing. Well, what do you want to do? Well, find your niche and go out, go see bands. Or do they need an
Mhm.
extra singer? Do they need a background? Do they need a mentor? Do they need somebody to help with choreography? Like I was just getting immersed in all of this stuff, and it
Mhm.
took a while to really kind of make my mark all the way through my 20s. But then I started getting local show bands calling and say, "Hey, would you like to to sit up? One of our singers is sick. Would you like to sit in?" And then because I was actively performing so much, like
Mhm.
literally like 250 plus days a year,
Oof.
we were doing state fairs and festivals and parties and weddings and ginormous like conventions and Mardi Gras balls. The band originated in New Orleans in 1971, so I joined in 91, and just I was hooked. I mean, I thought, well, yeah, maybe I'll do this for a couple of years and go back to college because that's I was very scholastic and thought, oh yeah, I need to get a degree, but I don't. I'm not condoning that by any means. Get an education if you can, absolutely. But for
Mhm.
me, it worked out that I was able to work enough all the time that I was able to move out on my own in my early 20s and get out and kind of start just kind of like making a career
Mhm.
and developing a really good solid resume. I was working as an extra in some productions and some kind of like commercial work. Eventually, I did get an agent. It didn't really work out. I was kind of already immersed and was already kind of booking myself at that point. I'm still actively looking for an agent now for voiceover. I'm really excited to hopefully get back into it. It's extremely competitive and very, a lot of times very political, and it's kind of like who you know, and
Mhm.
you get sideways with someone and it can be even harder to kind of get back in. And so I'm actively auditioning. I've gotten a couple little roles here and there. Last couple of years and this year's very been driven by the Comic Cons and the meet and greets and the comic stores and really getting in front of the fans, which is my personal favorite part of what I do. Being that we did not have residuals and royalties, this kind of can be viewed as something instead of that.
Mhm.
Because if your character's popular enough and they the collectors come out now, they're most of our fans. I say Dragon Ball Z core fans are over 30 now. Um, Early in my career, I was having to do the voice so many times because none of the little boys or girls would believe I was the voice of a boy of go, I didn't know you're a girl. So I remember the first couple of Comic Cons I was at, San Diego Comic Con in 2000, the first one I'd ever been to, which I didn't even know they existed, by the way. And that one was like kind
Yeah,
of a
you
mothership.
started with the biggest one, by the way. Good job.
I was literally blown away. I was like, "What is this?" I mean, there were, Star Wars actors there. Back then there was Lou Ferrigno, like all the kind of the 80s, 70s and 80s stars were really big at those conventions. And of course, Star Wars is bigger than ever now, and Star Trek and all that. So Marvel, DC, whatever it is that you need, it was there. And it was just kind of like a whirlwind. And I still am like so grateful and so amazed that I'm finding a way to contribute to my livelihood now with all of this stuff I actually technically recorded 15 plus years ago. Um, but I think I finished most of my roles in 08, 2008, 2008. And my characters grew up and then thus were recast to a male character, the adult Goku, obviously an adult Gohan. And that's just kind of like the way they did things. So I did manage to get a lot of small roles while I was kind of already there. We had a smaller talent pool, and a lot of the voice actors were extremely talented and could change their voice enough to be some other characters while we were kind of already there wrapping up that session. So I, by complete chance, got the voice of East Kai. Oh, the queen, and I'm over the gold. And that was completely by chance that they just needed an actor, and they were like, oh, yeah, that's the voice we're looking for. Sounded nothing like Goku or Gohan, and that's probably the only reason I even had a shot at it, because I wasn't necessary. I did audition for Frieza and for Goten, but there's only so much you can do to be a young boy voice, and I was able to change Gohan and Goku enough through the acting. And then, of course, with GT, I had to voice Goku again, but coming from the perspective as an adult. So I did really feel challenged, but I used a lot of my acting chops for that. And that's why when people come up and ask, you really need to be not just have a great voice and take direction, you really need to be a good actor. Like, you really need to be good at sliding into that character and becoming that character and really getting whatever intensity is needed to make the right voice or the right reaction or whatever the script is calling for. But you have to be believable. You could have a really great voice and you could be like a great mimic. Well, that's no doubt it's a talent, but when you're working with anime or you're cast in a show that involves acting, and for me, I was naturally better at the silly stuff. So I did a lot of musical theater. And that was my I at one point I wanted to go to Broadway. I thought about going to New York, and my mom unfortunately got sick and was gone within 8 months, right after I got cast as Gohan, and 25 years ago. And when that happened, I was just distraught and broken into pieces. So at that point, I decided I was never going to move again. I had moved my whole life like 9, 10 times. So I'm still literally like in the same house that I've been in for 24 years. Like, not saying I'll never move again. It might happen, but when you're freelance and you're traveling and you don't go to a day job every day, you can kind of live wherever. And since we've had COVID, um, we're doing this podcast. There's all these things you can do online. I have my home studio. I can do auditions from home. I've got an engineer that's my business manager, my agent manager, whatever you want to call him, and my bass player for my band. And so I've started this really cool business over the past few years, and kind of coming from kind of nothing and really been building and working, and kind of like reading the room, like, oh, well, some people contact me, hey, would you like to be a guest? If not, I find another venue, or I look online and find out when the events are coming, and I send them my info. They answer, great. If they don't, no worries. I'm definitely used to that. Sometimes they don't read their email, or you get rejected, or it's like, no, we're looking for some, or you might not even hear anything back at all. But you grow used to that when you're in this, in show business, and knowing that going in, some people give up, it's tough. I mean, some of these, it's dog eat dog. I mean, for me, my voice acting community has been extremely difficult to navigate personalities and egos, and directors and actors, and who does what, and who has their favorites. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's really a big part of it, is kind of who and if they like you. If you don't grate on their nerves in some way, you'll get cast. It's like, but you hear about that in the tabloids. You hear about some people who are difficult to work with, or they just but they're extremely talented too. So you can be a crazy talented person, but you simply won't get cast for whatever reason, or if you get a bad reputation, or if somebody doesn't like you, or I mean, so it's been, I mean, I'm used to that, but it's been really, really rough to try to get back into like regular castings, and being challenged, because that's what I want to really do during the week, is is get back into voicing new characters, be challenged, voice a female for a change, or an elderly lady, or, maybe a villain, maybe, maybe that's in the future or somehow, somebody
Yeah.
that's completely different from a boy hero.
No, completely understandable because wrestling's the same way. I've been I recently, within the past year, moved to Texas.
Oh,
So
wow.
a lot of, and just like you said, a lot of it is sure, this person is super talented, but they're also kind of a jerk. So like they don't always
Yeah,
get, they
yeah.
don't always get booked. Or,
Mhm.
I will never say that I'm a great wrestler, but I always say that I'm a good professional, and that's kind of how I've gotten so many gigs in the past is, "Oh, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, I know I've worked with him. He's a good guy. You should use him." Whether or
There's
not it's a big thing or whether much like anime, whether it's a small role or a leading role,
Mhm.
um, you know, that professionalism carries you a long way, and just like you trying to get back into the swing and
Mm,
it's very much who you know. I'm
yeah.
doing the same thing with wrestling because when I moved to Texas, I know well, now I know a couple more, but I knew one person who wrestled in Texas, and he lives in Houston.
Oh,
I live
wow.
in Fort Worth, so I was not
Ah.
excited to drive 4 to 5 hours for a booking. So now I'm
Mhm.
trying to, get my feet in the door at different places.
Yeah.
So I understand completely where you're coming from with hopefully your abilities, your reputation follows you enough that you can
Mhm.
get back to what you're passionate about.
Right, and if it doesn't, quit knocking on doors that are closed. There's some people are just like, "Nope, I'm not," and I wish they would just tell people that, like, We're not gonna hire you," or "We're not this is why," or whatever, like, but Texas is a right to work state, so it can be really difficult. I was recast, and 4 or 5 others were recast in Kind Super, like, I wasn't asked back. I didn't even know they were recording it. Well, that was like, "What happened there?" So, um, it happens, and I mean, even when I did OKKO, back in 2012 through 16, KO, okay, KO, Let's Be Heroes, I was cast as KO. And I went to LA a couple times to record with the rest of the cast. And then because I was the only castmate that was not local to LA,
Mm,
the powers that be or the corporate red tape people in charge of like maybe more of the financial aspect were like, no, we need to recast somebody who's local. So they had somebody voice match, which was a compliment that they wanted somebody to voice match because I'd already done the first 8 episodes. So it can be pretty ugly. It can get real nasty sometimes, and then sometimes you just don't get an answer. You're just kind of like, "Can you give me some feedback?" Like, was I late? Was I distracted? Like, was I not focused? Like, what? I'm always open to constructive criticism. I mean, I was majoring in acting and
mm,
not getting cast in much of anything but the musicals, which is fine because that was kind of what I was naturally best at. But okay, so maybe I'm just not a great, solid dramatic actress. And I haven't had much opportunities to do that anyway. And thankfully now I haven't really had to. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm open to pretty much anything. And so now I'm just kind of like recovering from some really, really dark times of, some tragic loss, family loss, grief, and coming out of the fierce, traumatic, dysfunctional household as a child and
mm,
being pulled and tugged and like the new girl thing. And my stepdad was extremely aggressive and kind of lived in fear and survival mode. And so my mom was my fortress and my only safety. And so when I lost her, I literally had to go start from scratch, like literally have almost nothing. When I say nothing, I don't mean I lost my house or my car or I found ways to make it and I found that there was an inner resilience there. So coming up and out of that, those years were dark. And now my platform is to kind of help others, especially kids that maybe or may or not watch, may watch anime. When I'm speaking to fans face to face and meeting their families and their kids, I hear a lot of feedback about how Dragon Ball Z got them out of some really tough times, whether it be a domestic violence situation or maybe some mental illness or addiction or maybe their parents were fighting and they would hide in their room and watch Dragon Ball Z, or they would play the games. So what I do now is, it seems very obvious to me that if I can inspire, encourage, and build up people in general, but young people tends to be my thing. I love kids and
Mhm.
people, because I mentored for so long already with girl singers and starlets, and worked with choreography and costuming and showmanship and stage presence. And, it did a lot of stuff, for many, many years. So it's a natural thing for me to kind of be kind of a motherly, nurturing person in these young kids' lives. And hopefully I can continue to be some kind of a, I don't know if I'd say a role model really, but like, someone that they can turn to and like, you know, glean something positive to stay in the game or fight your demons or whatever it is. So that's kind of my thing now when I don't have children. So I'm kind of like an anime mom now, and some of my anime babies are having kids, and now I'm almost into anime grandma, which I don't feel old at all, but uh, some there's grandmas that are grandmas at 50. So I guess I could be an anime grandma. I'm good with that.
Well, I will speak for myself and for a few of my friends. Um, we've all gone through some rough times with our lives, with our jobs. Um,
Yep. Loss.
and I
Grief.
know so much because I'm also 9 to 5. I'm also in the military,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we have a lot of people dealing with depression, with anxiety, with separation from family, and I know personally a lot of my friends, their coping mechanism, their go-to is the gym, and
Mm,
so many of them are also anime geeks. So
anime geeks.
you see them at the gym wearing, you know, Goku
Training like
shirts for
Goku.
training like Goku,
Yeah.
Majin shirts for the Vegeta fans. So the likes of Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, all being these representations of keep working hard, keep improving,
Mhm.
um, is just
Resilience.
is so like both mind blowing and so inspiring. I
Mhm.
know that I watched a show once and they were comparing the old classic comic book comparison of Superman versus Goku, the man who was created to not have limits and the man that was created to break limits. And so many of us feel that with the likes of Gohan, with the likes of Goku and the likes of Vegeta, of okay, I've hit this ceiling. Now it's time to, break through, hit that level 2, hit level
Right.
3.
Yeah.
And so it means the world to us. And I can say
Yeah.
that without a shadow of a doubt.
With like striving to get better, not just physically, but mentally, really harness that martial arts concept of like really being focused and unfettered, or like because we all have adversity, I mean, in life, in our career, in our families, for me it's like I don't really have one anymore. My family's kind of gone. I don't really have, they've passed, or friends have moved away, friends have passed away. So it's like sometimes you just have to kind of like find a way to navigate life and rebuild some kind of fortress of your own, and really take care of yourself, and figure it out, and just stay strong and get help if you need help. Get help. I mean, I'm not perfect. We all make mistakes and we all make poor decisions when we're trying to cope with life. It's like, well, whoops, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Uh, but you can recover and you can change, and you can change for the better. And I mean, I'm a perfect example of that, uh, really turned my life around, and really am pretty much a walking miracle after what I was suffering through for so long. So if I can inspire these kids and talk face to face, and, I just, it's good for me too. Like there's a reward there for me to feel like, wow, I did something really cool. It was a long time ago, but these fans really gravitated to some of this voice work I did so long ago. It's a body of work. So I'm very grateful to still be around and kicking and thriving, finally coming out of the dark.
Well, we are all very grateful to have you. So specifically kid slash teen Gohan, so many of us, at least in my little group of friends growing up, really looked up to that character because we all wanted to be Goku, but we all felt like we were Gohan. We were all
Hmm.
had the potential to be, to be like that hero, and we were just trying our best. And then you get to it's honestly it's one of my favorite times in Dragon Ball Z. You get to the Cell games and you get to Gohan fighting Cell, and this character stepping up and doing what everyone else couldn't do. And it was motivating for all of us seeing that,
Yeah.
especially I mean I still, and I'm not ashamed to admit this because I'm a grown adult, I still get teary-eyed when I see the father son Kamehameha scene,
Oh yeah.
because it's so just emotional and so just full
Hmm.
of just full of passion. So I
Yep.
know that we're all appreciative of that. I know we're all appreciative of the effort that you put into these characters and how much they meant to us.
That's great. I love the feedback. Yeah, and then I actually did break down and get emotional during a lot of that because I had lost my mother. And so I was, portraying a boy who'd lost his father. So a lot of that, I had a lot of real life experience to draw from that, the cracking of the voice and the crying and the emotion behind this kid who'd been kind of in the background for a while and just didn't feel like he could step up. And then finally releasing this hidden power and all of this angst and holding back for his whole life really, and then
Mhm.
just like unleashing, was powerful stuff. I'm just glad I was able to physically do it, being a rock singer, R&B, soul, jazz. We did 50s, 60s. I mean, I sang just about all kinds of genres of music, and there were times when we'd sing some rock and roll, some 80s rock and roll on the road. And so thankfully I had the chops, and without kind of realizing it, because I was kind of like just going through the motions at the time. It was a long time
Mhm.
ago. But I would kind of work my schedule. I knew how to take care of my voice. I mean, I had to. I didn't have a choice. I actually learned how to sing around. This sounds crazy. Other singers might understand what I'm saying. Like I learned how to sing around having a sinus infection or having laryngitis, or there were things and skills that I learned through performing and singing and being tired and not having any sleep and maybe being sick, that I took into the booth with me when I was doing these high intensity scenes as Gohan in the Cell Saga. And so they were, it's kind of like I didn't even know until I showed up to work that I was going to be in this Cell games, and all of a sudden this voice was not going to be young Gohan. It was going to be like Cell games kick butt Gohan
Yep.
voice, very raw, like gravelly and raspy and just total badass. I don't like
Oh,
to cuss, but like
oh
that's all
no,
he yeah.
absolutely.
He's
That's
just got
exactly
all of
what it
this.
was. It was super badass. That's what here. I'll
Yeah.
start off because I'm
Super
so
Saiyan
proud of this.
2.
This right here is
Mhm.
like the pinnacle of the show for me. And the fact that you signed it is so amazing and so inspiring. Thank you. But
Absolutely. That's kind of a holy grail one right there. That's the one that's, I think, worth the most. It's vaulted. It's is that the glow in the dark?
yes, glow in the
Yeah,
dark
that's
GameStop exclusive. I got it in a protector. It goes up on a little ledge that
yes.
it doesn't go anywhere besides
Yeah.
in front of everyone.
I
But
love that.
I wanted to ask that question, like how much, because you talked to me a little bit about your singing yesterday at the convention.
Mhm.
How much of that like translated into uh the screaming for Dragon Ball? Because a lot of people joke the Dragon Ball is just screaming. It's just a lot of for a
Yeah,
long
powering
time.
up, a lot of pregnant
So
pauses. Yeah.
how much of like your music ability, your singing ability, holding long notes translated over into
Mm.
that particular need for the show?
Yeah, well, for me, it was the same but different. I was still utilizing my voice, but the fact that I had this musical background with rhythm and beats and time, this basically the what is it, the theory of music and how it impacts dubbing. And I was able to really transition into this work quickly because of that. I was good at kind of timing out. the lip flaps, you know, bump, 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 bump. And if I didn't get it the first time, we tried it without much direction. And if we got it, we got it. If not, I would do it again immediately, and they would slide it over. Like there was all these techniques that we all learned and that we were all better at, and some not so much. And we had to kind of like work on what we weren't, and really kind of all we could do is really just take direction and pay attention to that. And every once in a while there'd be a line read. Okay, we'll do it like this. Oh, okay, sounds good. And then with me having mimicking skills, I could mimic, and then just do the line in Gohan's voice or Goku's voice. And I had no problem with that. You know, I don't have any pride about the acting part of it. I want the work to be good, and it meant a lot to me when it was. And well, by golly, you know, I wouldn't have been able, I guess I wouldn't have been cast if I wasn't what they were looking for. So, but you know, what's cool about the music thing too is by working with Brave Convo and Carl Finch, they were hired to work on the original music for some of the Japanese anime themes.
Hmm.
And I was a integral part of that in the sense that I was hired to help translate the Japanese lyrics into English. And I'd already worked with Carl Finch on a original album called The Cookies. And so I was already familiar with how he did things and how the production went. And I was able to recruit singers, you know, to have different singers. And then I was able to direct some of those singers. So a lot of my fans have no idea that I sang Sayonara Bye Bye from Yu Yu Hakusho, and the opening and closing theme to Kitty Grade. And there was 2 themes on Case Closed that I sang, and then I was recruiting singers because I was kind of already doing that anyway, and working with some of them on stage. And so I'm like, oh, hey, here's a different voice. What kind of voice are you looking for? Oh, okay, you need a male voice. Let me put my feelers on and help you recruit some other singers, you know. So it kind of just went hand in hand. And then the fact that the music training and the mouth flaps and really making that stuff fit uh was I don't say it was completely totally easy, not at first, but it became like another skill on its own, you know, being able to really watch those flaps. And I would
Hmm.
memorize the line because can memorize lyrics. So I'd memorize the line. So I'm not looking at a paper script, and I'm literally looking at the screen, watching and timing it out that way. And so that was extremely helpful for a lot of the actual dialogue.
No, because I do love me some Yu Yu Hakusho. I didn't know personally that you did help with any of the music for that, so that's super awesome. That so
I
much of
wish we
that.
still did that. I don't think they
Uh,
do that anymore. I don't know if it's just that they're cranking this stuff out so fast that they can't focus on the anime and the music part and the themes. Because I mean, some of the fans like the Japanese themes anyway, or
mhm.
they prefer that. I don't know. Everyone has an opinion about it. But I enjoyed it. It was very creative. I was dealing with lyrics and music and recruiting singers and directing and singing. And I mean, I was just immersed. I was in heaven.
That's
Yeah.
so awesome. So, uh, someone actually else brought this up, and I wanted to ask you because we talked yesterday at the convention. You said you really wanted to talk about your singing, which I was super down for. One of my friend Reese, she actually brought up an excellent question that I don't think I've ever asked. And I might have to continue on after this because you said a lot of interviews ask you the same questions.
Mhm.
What is what is a question or a topic that you wish people would ask you? Like what is the one
Um,
thing that you're like, man, I wish someone would just bring this up?
I don't know. I mean, like life struggles and how you got through it, empowering stories. What were some of the big struggles in someone's life, and how did they navigate with that? I mean, I'm pretty expressive and kind of a deep person, and so I mean, I will talk about anything to be honest, but I like you know, talking about philosophy and outer space, and sometimes it's fun to just answer some light carefree questions like your favorite breakfast cereal, or you know, I don't know, it's kind of fun to just kind of get thrown a curveball
Mhm.
and like rapid fire, you know. um and I don't know, I mean, like I would like to feature some of the music at some point if it's appropriate, or people can just go to my website for that. But you know, like a lot of this stuff's uncredited. I mean, I guess I got to figure out a way to get that on IMDb. But um, the production directors were credited on these anime themes, but none of the singers were, and it just kind of just the way it was. I'm not even sure it was intentional. It just kind of the way it happened. So it's a trivia thing, and in fact, 90+% of the the fans that I know or that I meet have no idea that I'm a professional singer and that I have been since I was 18. You know, it's like that was my livelihood and bread and butter for many, many, many years. And I miss it. I miss it. I'm actually gonna hopefully be working on some music in the coming months. Well, first of all, I really want to try to get my album that never really went anywhere, got shelved, get that out on Spotify and figure out like the logistics of the technology that encompasses
Mhm.
that to really get that out to the listeners and say, man, they might love it. You know, it's like some
Mhm.
of this stuff is really cool and it just, or maybe re-record some of it, you know, maybe make it modern or get the rights to be able to record again. My love and passion for children, I'm going to be hopefully writing a song for a children's book in a few months, and I'm looking forward to doing that and then going in and recording it. So um, yeah, I mean, I'm not done. I got a lot of dreams and a lot of passions, and when the time is right, man, it's gonna happen. But
Oh, no,
you gotta hit that pavement every day, though. You gotta work on those goals, and don't get stagnant, and don't let people beat you down. Because, like I said, just walk another direction and make your way. You know, it's like sometimes you just have to do that.
no, absolutely, and I hope you do get those albums out. I'd love to hear them. Out of curiosity, for your album, what kind of music genre are you feeling? Are you about to drop a heavy metal album?
Oh, rock and roll. Yeah. No, not particularly. The music I worked on primarily in the mid, I guess when with Vince Vance we put out albums too. It was like light pop, and some of it was novelty stuff,
Mhm.
and we would actually sometimes use character voices, and then we would sing as characters, and so that's kind of where I think I'm the most experienced at. But I like R&B and pop, and uh, I could see myself maybe kind of doing kind of like contemporary, adult contemporary, but for a long time in my 20s, I was pursuing country and I went to Nashville several times trying to navigate that. And that was just a big like question mark. I never really got anywhere, but it was a good experience. Being from the South and being originally from Memphis and living in Texas most of my life, you know, I sometimes get told at auditions that I sound a little Southern and that, but that can be good for a specific genre.
Mhm.
But like, I know there was an audition for Pop Stars back in 2000 and they really wanted more of the traditional, like LA straight up slick
Mhm.
pop. So, but I just saw that as another opportunity to learn how to kind of get rid of some of that accent and try to
Mhm.
kind of keep it a little bit more for audition purposes.
Yes. I asked you about your music. I asked you about. Oh, I wanted to ask, um, because you're doing so many convention appearances and you're meeting all these people, what has been one of your favorite fan interactions so far, whether it be fan
Yeah.
telling you a story or just someone brought you something really unique to sign? Like, what's been some of your favorite interactions with
Yeah.
fans?
There's a lot of them. I recently signed an album, which of course I immediately was like, "What's this album?" Like, it's from Japan, and I'm like, "An album? Oh my gosh, I grew up with albums. Like, this is my, you know, my childhood, right?" And it was a Dragon Ball Z like album with music. And then some people will bring old nostalgic like toys that were put out in the 80s or 90s, like from Japan, or they've found a way to get their hands on some really unique stuff. And every once in a while, I'll get like a people's artwork, and I usually they'll give me their artwork because I'm like I said I love kids and I love that. So I got my refrigerator with all this art where I really do like keep it. And then I'll like sign one for them, or they'll have me sign theirs, and I'm always like, "Are you sure? Like, I don't want to mess it up. You know, this is your artwork." Like, um, and then recently, you know, the thing with the at the booth with the plexiglass where we've done the collaboration
Yes.
with Ozzy DeVirus in Orlando. He's one of my favorite artists. I've got tons of his work on my table, which is great because I can help promote another creative
Oh
that
yeah.
has this amazing talent. I'm like, you got to see this guy. I mean, you got to commission him. He's amazing. He can do anything. And you know, and then the interactions from the kids who've grown up and they're sharing Dragon Ball with their kids and they're kind of reintroducing everything and then they're sharing it with their kid is like so moving and sweet, you know. I get people, you know, now that thank God we've gotten way away from the COVID days where I can actually hold babies and make little cute videos with them. And you know, I've gotten some people that get emotional. They start crying like and I'm like, I don't know what to do with that sometimes. I'm always like, I'm just a person. I'm the girl next door. I just happen to have this cool talent. We all have talent. Like, not that I'm trying to diminish anything. Sometimes that's not good either. Um, but I'll hear like stories of kids that literally like had so much trauma or PTSD or broken families that they would hide in their room and watch Dragon Ball Z, or they'd come home from school and they would shut their door and they would just dive into
Hmm.
that, and that became their escape, and it became a way for them to handle the angst of being a kid and but maybe being bullied at school, which I know I can relate to, mostly emotional, verbal bullying. I mean, I wasn't really, I was punched a few times in middle school, but yeah, it's like that those stories. And I remember like there's this one kid that came in and he was so broken down, and I think it was his dad was like, "Why are you buying all this stupid anime stuff?" And the kid was like 12 or 13, and my heart just broke for him. And I know they were going through, apparently I found out later they were going through a lot with their mom or with his mom. And anyway, I just felt so bad that this kid was really into Dragon Ball Z, and his dad was like kind of verbally, kind of, it's kind of a form of abuse. Like, well, I'm not going to spend money. Why would you spend money on this crap? Like, and I just remember he was so defeated, and it broke my heart. And I found a way to get a signed print to the store owner to literally, thankfully it was a small town, to get that kid a free autograph, just because my heart was just breaking for him, because I'd been through some of that myself. And I was just like, man, that's rough, And then some people will come up and they've got mental challenges, or they might be autistic, or um, and they just want to talk. They want to visit with you. And if there's not a line, I mean, come on up. I don't require anybody to buy anything. If you don't want to buy anything, you can come out and just tell me a story. So there's just so many that I really, they're countless. I can't really pinpoint. I just do remember that one because that was just like heartbreaking.
Wow.
So yeah.
No, that's very amazing and very wonderful of you. I know personally, cuz recently, and it's really heartbreaking to me, that Akira Toriyama passed away.
Yeah,
And
like a month ago.
uh
Was
yeah,
it
or it
March
was
1st?
it
Somewhere
was I think
early
he
March.
passed away on the 1st, and then it wasn't made public until like the 10th.
That sounds
Some
about right.
something of that nature.
Yeah.
And it didn't hit me initially until I was about to write a post about it, and I was like, wow, there is so much that I attribute to Dragon Ball for just my life.
Yeah.
Some
He's
of
a
the
legend.
some of the friends I made along the way, throughout my
Mm,
life. Um, this is the most embarrassing story I'll probably ever tell on this podcast. Um, Me and my friends, when we were kids, we played Dragon Ball. We all had our own characters. Well,
yeah.
my character's name is still my gamer tag for Xbox 15 years later. So I
Wow.
still use that name
Yeah.
from all those years ago. So just
Yeah.
what the show, what Toriyama, what all these characters meant to us growing up is just it, it didn't hit me until I was writing that out, and I was like, there's so much behind this show and how much it meant to everyone.
Well, and it's been dubbed in so many, I don't even know, countless countries and multitude of languages. Um, and it's impacted people all over the world. I mean, I remember the first time I went to New Zealand and Australia, I'm like, they saw it over there and they speak English. So, wow, okay, wow, I'm going to Australia and New Zealand to meet the fans over there. What, how lucky am I? Like, wow. And like you said, there's just so many like my life would not have been anything like what it is now, and all the people that watched it, and getting out there, meeting the fans, and making a living. And I've met friends that are extremely important to me that are Dragon Ball Z fans, super fans, that are collectors that I talk to and I have conversations with. Some of them I have their personal number, and we stay in contact. And then you've got social media right there. So got all this social media where people can interact. There's fan club pages, there's cosplay. I mean, Dragon Ball Z is just huge. I mean, it's wow. And to be a part of that, and the legacy that Akira has left, is there's just no words. It's just so powerful. And And then now you've got Funko Pops, for it's been a while now they've been released, but there's Funko Pops now, there's toys, there's new lines of toys and um big collectors everywhere for whatever it is. That's why these conventions are so fun because you get to geek out, you get to kind of feed that inner kiddo and you feel kind of if you're a misfit, you kind of feel like you're a little bit more part of some kind of acceptance at these events, whether it's cosplay or it's just very refreshing to see that in person and really witness these kids and people of all ages embracing something that meant the world to them growing up and like you know hopefully they're not being made fun of. I mean, I know it still happens, but usually at these events it's just wide open arms for this and like, hey, dress up like your oh, you look amazing, oh, let's take a picture. It's like a little wonderland, it's a little escape and it's safe. They're out there's nobody out there committing crimes hopefully, and they're off the streets and they're hanging out at a comic-con. I mean, it's greatness. So it's just there's no words really to describe it. So
That's so amazing. And I 1000% agree. So we'll, as we start to wind down, I'll ask this last question. Is there anything you'd like to either share or say to the fans? Anything you'd like to maybe promote upcoming? Just any last minute uh words that you'd like to share with the wonderful folks of the internet.
well, other than the tomato wave, no, I love my fans so much. You're such a huge part of who I am and everything that I'm doing. It's kind of like in my veins, and I'm very, very grateful for each and every one that's reached out to me that has made a trip to come meet me at an event or the feedback or like I get a lot of fan mail and it's like it's powerful stuff and I make a point to write back to everybody. So if you want to reach out to me, stephanienadolny.com is my website. That's where I usually put where I'm going to be appearing. I'm kind of behind on the gallery and the photos and things like that because I have been doing quite a bit of traveling pretty much every weekend. And I got a lot of stuff going on with grief with my father passing recently, and I've got a lot on my plate, but um, my fans are really my world. I mean, they really kind of pulled me out of some extreme dark times. They felt like I had a purpose. I kind of like had to rebuild. Like, well, what am I doing now? Like, I've lost all this stuff, and like, now what do I do? I did these voice sessions years and years ago. How can that possibly be relevant now? Or I mean, you just go through these insecurities about who you are and the power of your work and and being an expressive type and being in show business. It's like you really want to feel like you're doing a good job and you're really making an impact and you're making people think and feel and feel emotion, and to be a part of that is just amazing. So basically just that I have a social media. I've got a TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, Stephanie Nadolny, voice actress. There's a submission form on my website if you have any questions, if you want to do a send in or a mail in, if there's something you want to get signed and I'm not anywhere in your area, or if you're overseas, reach out to me and we will make it happen. We'll get it signed, even if we have to just mail it and track it and get it back to you safely.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, so much for coming on the show, for talking with me today. It means the world. It truly does. Uh, and it was an absolute pleasure and absolute honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Same. It was my pleasure. I hope everybody loves it and keep doing what you're doing and keep keep on keeping on. Keep looking up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. As always, like us on Facebook, follow us on all our social media. We're going to be trying to be posting more on all our social media, on our Instagram, on our Facebook page. Join our Discord. But please like, share, follow, support the show. We appreciate it. Stephanie, thank you again for coming on. And
My pleasure.
we'll see you guys very soon.
Call me,